we are live now. I think we're live. Let's see. Somebody's got some music going on in the background. Is that me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Do y'all hear that music, or is that just me hearing it? Oh, there it goes. It's gone now. Okay. All right. You guys don't have to. You don't have to mute yourselves yet. We're still here in pre-show, and we ought to have a clock up here somewhere. Hold on.
Any of you guys see Tom on YouTube yet?
Okay. Now we're getting there. Now we're getting there. If you gentlemen want to keep up with what's going on in the chat, you can go to the Eastern Shore Broadcasting page and click the Watch Live tab and then pop out the chat that's on that page if you want to, and kind of keep it handy. I've got it up here as part of my multi-view. All right, so we got a couple of minutes till showtime. See, RJ is there. RJ is in chat. Herman's in chat. Ron Wallace is there. Dave is there. RJ, I'll have to get up with you on Saturday. I'm bringing my wife along for this trip, so I don't know what other kinds of things we're going to be able to do. We're doing there's a giant, this 110-foot sailing vessel, not a sailboat, but it's an old workboat, old workboat for the oil rigs in the Gulf. And they put a 30-foot by 40-foot billboard on the back of it, one of these electronic billboards. And so we're taking a vMix system out there to them to pop it down so they can show all sorts of other stuff. And they just basically park offshore off the beach, and it's going to be fun. I won't go out with them, but I'll get the setup done. All right, so let's see. USA BMX, is that George? Introduce yourselves, guys. Herman is from Lake Wales. There you go. And Brandon's here. Brandon's from Troy, I believe. You know, sometimes I get these wrong. I apologize if I do. But right up here, that's Patrick. Right above me is Ken. Over here is Eric. And then next to me over here is Rick. And you wonder, say, well, Tom, why aren't you saying last names? Well, it's because Glory and Benedict and Tabor are really, really easy. But then it's this other guy over here who doesn't have any vowels in his name until you get to the end of the name. So it's like, okay, gee whiz. So we'll just call him Rick. That's right. That's right. That's right. All right. Oh, Ken's here. Welcome, Ken. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. And George is USA BMX. Good dog. That was a pretty good guess. Pretty good guess. George does a lot of BMX racing. His son is deeply involved in that, and very talented in it, as I recall. Okay, it's 2 o'clock. We probably ought to get started because I know you guys, I only paid you for a half an hour. Right now, Ken's thinking, paid? I'm getting paid? You get to hang out with me. Isn't that payment enough? Oh my gosh, sometimes I just kill myself. Frank B's is here. Rich is here. There we go. He's Ken's #1 fan. That's right. All right. Well, we're delighted you guys are here. If you're joining us on Facebook, we won't be monitoring the Facebook chat today. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get that put together. So come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com, click the Watch Live tab, and you can go to this wonderful video here, and you'll have a chat right below it where you can engage in chat, and we can see it right up there. We probably won't be addressing your questions during the show, but for the guests that are able to hang around a little bit for the post show, we'll try to hit questions there. And Curtis is here from Ontario, Canada. Welcome, Curtis. Glad to have you. Kyle the Plunderer is here. We can't call Kyle the Plunderer anymore because Dave Edwards is now winning all the good stuff out there on the internet. But Kyle will be in our replay class tonight with a bunch of other folks. All right, so gentlemen, if you haven't already, mute yourselves, and we'll start the show. And I'm going to do a little monologue. And somebody just came back on. I think you thought you were muting, but you were not muting. Got a little room noise from somebody. Oh, it's gone now. Okay, there we go. It was Rick. All right, very good. And by the way, as with all Streaming Idiot shows, we have not rehearsed anything. So this is totally unrehearsed, unprepared. These guys don't know the questions that I'm throwing at them. So it won't be any political or religious stuff, and you won't be tested on it later. So you're A-okay. All right, gents. Well, let's go here while they get warmed up in the green room. We'll get the show started if I can hit the right button here. There's got to be a button for that. Oh, yeah, here it is. We'll be right back. Hello, welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair. This is Streaming Idiots, and I am so glad that you are here. I'm so excited about today's show. We have got a collection. Well, actually, we asked a bunch of guys to be on the show, and none of those could make it. So this is the second team that we've got with us today. No, I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. We've got some really great guys in sports, live streaming sports, particularly football, American football. Have to put American in here now because, you know, we got an international audience. So we'll get to those guys in 1 second, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Tonight we're starting our very first vMix replay class. The class is full, so this is not a promotion for the class. We will make it available on demand a little bit later once we kind of get the bugs worked out on that. But I did want to introduce something that I'm really excited about. This is the new replay controller from XKeys. It is the XKE-64 Jog Shuttle Tabor. And it's all set with all the buttons you need. It works particularly well with vMix because vMix has developed a template that will make all these buttons do stuff in vMix. It's really cool. These are available in our store at easternshorebroadcasting.com. They're $8.99, and heck, I tell you what, if you want to buy one today and you've got an older version of vMix, like vMix 21 or 20 or something like that, we'll even throw in a vMix upgrade to version 22 for free. So let me know if you need that, and we'll supply that to you. But this is really cool. We've got a bunch of these on hand. We're going to make them available to the folks in the class tonight at a discount. Just one of the perks of being in the class. So if you take a class from us, you're going to get some good stuff. That's the XKE-64 Jog Shuttle Tabor from PI Engineering. So, one other note, if you are in Europe, or even if you're not in Europe, if you plan on attending the IBC 2019 conference coming up next month, I'm going to be there. I'm so excited. The guys at vMix, you know, bless their hearts, they don't know what they're getting themselves into again. But they've invited me to come join them in Amsterdam. So if you're going to be hanging around in Europe at IBC, please come visit us. We're in Hall 6, which is like a teeny little hallway between like Hall 4 and Hall 7 or something like that. We're right next to Bird Dog. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Come hang out. And we might even see if we can put together a little impromptu Streaming Idiots meetup there at a pub somewhere in Amsterdam. It'll be a ton of fun. Love to see you. Love to see you. Love to have you. So let's talk football. So with that, that's a cue to all you guys to go ahead and turn your mics back on. I wasn't able to get the mic thing working today. And let's see if I push the right button here, if that means that we all come in together. Hooray, look at that. I got it. We're here. Let's start to my left. Rick is here. Rick, have you got audio?
Got audio.
There he is.
Yes.
All right. And
Yes,
then
sir.
Eric, welcome.
Thank you, Tom. It's great to be here.
All right, there you go. We got him. Ken is here.
Representing the West Coast, yay.
West Coast. Somebody's got a speaker on in the background. I can hear it. And then Patrick is here.
Hey, Tom.
All right, everybody's got audio. This is great. This is great. All right, so all of you guys have been doing sports for a while. I know, Patrick, you've got this brand new OB truck that you want to show us, and I'm so excited. When I saw that you bought it, I just thought that's going to be so cool. Ken is the preeminent one-man band. I mean, you know, the guy that plays the trumpet, plays the guitar, he's got the drum on his back, and a parakeet on his shoulder, and is able to do amazing stuff, just one guy. Eric is working with the college. Eric, I'm going to get you to tell me about that. And Rick has sold all the companies that he used to work with for millions, so now he just gets to hang out and drink beer all day. But Rick is really one of the pioneers of this stuff. Rick, give us in a minute or less, give us your 30-second elevator speech. Tell us who you are and where you're from.
Well, I'm from Indiana, and fortunately, right here in town is the NCAA. And when the NCAA decided to webcast all of their national championships, I happened to have been right here and the only guy in town, and I got really lucky. So that's where my start came, with webcasting.
And you knew everything about webcasting
that.
before you started, right? You knew everything there was to know about it.
We had to make every mistake in order to figure out what was correct. But we had a blast doing it.
Awesome.
And we went from moving posting stamps to high definition television, and then eventually our productions ended up on national networks and regional sports networks. And then I retired, and now I just consult and support the local high school association.
Well, and you've got a very interesting Facebook group called Webcasters.
We are, I think, 5 or 15 people away from 2,000. It started as a group of 10 guys that kept asking me the same questions, and I thought, I'm going to create a group where I can answer it once. But actually, it's become an excellent resource for everybody. And we have contributors from all over the world who give us information, and it's a great learning tool. I'm having a blast with it.
Awesome. And that's on Facebook, Webcasters, if you're interested. Now, Eric, let me bring Eric into the conversation. Eric, you have been not only doing live streaming sports, but you are working with your local college university. Tell me about that.
Well, I also work with Albany State University. We do everything from commencement to celebrities doing presentations. We had Rick Ross. We do all athletics from football to baseball, basketball, soccer, softball, you name it. And my production company, G-Brick Productions, we also do arena football, and we recently had a chance to do an Atlanta Dream basketball game.
Oh, how cool. How cool. So you're working with students primarily.
Yes, that's correct. I work with students here at Albany State, and one of the things I really love is getting them hands-on, where when they first walk in and they see all the buttons and all the camera shots and the camera angles and the replay, they just are intimidated. But once you explain to them how things work and what this button does, then the light bulb comes on and how they're like, oh, this is easy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, you must really doing it. You must really love teaching, because, those kids are cycling through and you're getting a new batch every year. Starting from scratch.
Every couple of years, I'm always proud to see them when they've moved up. I've got one of my students, he actually is working with Turner Sports. I've got several students in the Atlanta area doing things with radio and with TV, and they've all had a chance to actually work on an ESPN production truck as an intern, which really was a feather in their cap as far as a resume builder.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And Eric, you're in Albany, Georgia, right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So we got Rick in Indiana. Eric is in Georgia. And right above me here, Ken Benedict, the preeminent one-man band when it comes to live streaming, is way out on the left coast. Ken, welcome. Tell us a little bit about what you got going on.
Thanks. I've been doing this for about 2 years, using vMix the whole time. Been doing mostly high school stuff. like baseball, basketball, volleyball, and football. And I'm going to be picking up a junior college here this season. So I'm going to try streaming those guys too. But I'm basically your one-man band. I walk in with 2 backpacks and a medium-sized Pelican case, and that's it.
Wow. So you're making one trip from the car.
One trip from the car, and I've got 3 cameras. I got basically my camera that moves on a tripod, a score bug, and a wide webcam for coverage. That's it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you just picked up this junior college. Now, is that going to be football, or will that be basketball and baseball in the winter and summer, spring?
We're going to try it out on football and see how well it works. They've got a nice Ethernet connection over there, so I can run some nice stuff. I'm going to try for 4K, but we'll see how that works. It's down the road.
4K. All right. Oh, man, I can't wait to hear about that. That's awesome. And then Patrick, right up here. And by the way, the footage that we've got playing right here is something that Patrick provided. Thank you, Patrick. And by all means, give yourself a plug. In fact, I think there's a logo behind his head that is his company. Patrick, you've got a new van. You're going to tell us more about that, but tell us what you're doing this fall.
So this year we kind of expanded a little bit. In previous years, we've done one high school, Noonan High School, which you see on the screen there. And our plan, even before getting the van, was to expand, and we're going to do a game of the week coverage this year. So we are traveling from basically, I'm in Carrollton, Georgia, which is on the Alabama-Georgia state line. We're going from the state line to about Metro Atlanta, covering I-20 down to about I-85. So around about a radius of about an hour drive here or there, but we're going to do a full 12 game plus an exhibition game for training. Exhibition game starts next week, believe it or not. So we're right here at the beginning of the season, and I had an opportunity to purchase a OB van from Brandon Adams, who's online with Wiregrass Sports. He's watching today, and got to work immediately on it, and it's just about finished. Yesterday was a big day. We faxed it out, got all the signals going where they need to go, and we'll probably use 7 or so cameras this year for high school.
Oh, that's awesome. So is this your full-time gig?
Well, I am a full-time freelancer, so this is only part of it, running my own company. But, I'm a man of many trades. I do TV. I still do a little bit of radio. I got my background. My background was in radio, and then I came across this video making of a broadcast from a guy named Rick in Indiana who happens to be on the show. And I saw where the radio industry was headed, and I said, I love what those guys are doing at Webstream Sports or Hometown Television back then. And, I said, I want to get involved in video. And I was able to, fortunately, become a TD at a local minor league baseball team that gave me immediately 70 games under the belt. And then from there on, I started working a lot of high school, college, anything I can get my hands on. So my full-time job basically is to travel around. I work for 4 separate colleges, and I just bounce around between those 4 colleges. I still work a lot of truck gigs here or there whenever they come calling. And then I run the company on the side, and that kind of fills the gaps. I have this Friday night package, but we are expanding this year, and we're going to do a full game of the week, not only for football, but we're going to start doing basketball and baseball as well.
That's awesome. There is no shortage of events, games, matches, whatever you want to call them, of things that we can stream. I mean, we're only kind of limited by our imagination. I'm going to pitch a question out there, and then I'm going to let you guys think about it while I go around and ask it. What is the most interesting, different, unusual, unique thing that you have ever live streamed or attempted to live stream? And I'll start. I did this show one time from what do you call those big? It's kind of like a porch, only it has a roof but no sides. You see them in the middle of a town square a lot of times where the band would play or something like that. It's not a cupola, it's not a pergola, it's whatever it is. Anyway, I was in some little town in Georgia, Eric, on the way to Atlanta, and it was time for my show. So I pulled off the side of the road, found this little town. I don't remember the name of the town now. And they had a little park, and it had this little building in it. And so I ran an extension cord back to my van, plugged into the power inverter at the cigarette lighter, and flipped on my laptop, set up a webcam and a Audio-Technica ATR 2100 microphone, and hooked on to a cell tower somewhere through my phone, and did the complete Streaming Idiot show from this little park in a small town in Georgia. And it was a lot of fun. It was probably a terrible show, but it was just a lot of fun, and it was kind of interesting in its challenges so far as getting technology to go. So Rick, we're gonna bring you up next and say what's the most interesting or unusual thing that you've live streamed or attempted to live stream?
High school proms. They were incredible. Incredible viewership. Unbelievable. Of course, the problem was getting permission, because as time has moved forward, what they do at these proms becomes a little more risque. And so as time went on, we got pushback, but doing proms was an absolute blast.
Awesome.
Nothing to do with sports.
Nope. And definitely unique challenges. That's right. You know, at all of the schools here in our county, when the parents sign the kids up for school, part of the sign-up process is a release form right then that their photo or video or live video may be used at some point during the course of the school year. So, you know, they've got 30,000 releases on file right off the bat. I think it's great, and it lightens
We had a
the load
problem
for the
one
rest of
time
us.
where one kid did not sign. We had to identify that kid and keep the camera away from him.
Sure. Well, you never know who's in a witness protection program or who's, you're in a witness protection program, and that's right. Or who's, got a break in the family and it's an estranged spouse or something like that that's run off with the kids. I mean, you have to respect people's privacy in that sense. So I get it. Eric, what's the strangest thing that you've had a chance to work with? And don't forget to turn your audio back on.
Well, Tom, it had to have been an arena football coach's show. It was crazy because we were outside on the patio of one of the local restaurants. We've got cameras, lighting, and all of a sudden a thunderstorm comes out of nowhere, and we're doing a live stream in the middle of in the middle of this thunderstorm, and everybody's soaking wet, cameras and everything, and like they said, the show must go on, and we weathered through it, but it was one of the craziest live streaming events I'd ever done.
Oh my God! Did you lose any equipment in the course of that?
I blew a couple of light bulbs in my lighting rig.
That's not too bad. That's not too bad. That's great. That's great. Well, Ken, what's the strangest thing that you've had an opportunity to work on?
Not sports so much, but we got some of the people out here on the West Coast that were excited about your show, so we tried to do a West Coast meetup. So we got about 6 or 7 people together, and we drove all the way up one of the highways, which is about 50 miles, and did a stream from inside the car. That was with Richard Ignacio, and I think you might have remembered that some time back. We ended up in Grass Valley and did some stuff from up there, and we had a good time. So we were driving down the road 60, 70 miles an hour doing the streaming.
I remember that. I remember that. That was quite a challenge, I bet. Patrick, what about you? What's been the oddest thing that you've been called on to do or volunteered to do?
Mine's pretty easy. It's a lower level pro wrestling. It's something that's very popular here in the West Georgia area, and we needed a place when we were kind of cutting our teeth that we could start doing some streaming, start kind of messing around with multi-camera, graphics, the whole 9 yards. And pro wrestling, believe it or not, was the very first thing that we started streaming.
Yeah, the first streams that we did were actually soccer. and came to find out later that soccer is probably one of the most difficult and what's the right word? Words are just escaping me today. But probably one of the most difficult sports to live stream because there are no timeouts. It's complete action all the time. You don't get a break. Where's the camera people out? Or the announcers out? It was great. All right, let's do one more round of stories, and then we'll kind of dig into a little bit of meat. So, Rick, tell me about your very first ever live stream. And by the way, the word I was searching for was gazebo. Thank you for that in the chat, Cujo. So, Rick, get your audio on. Everybody else can take theirs off.
Yep.
And the very, very first thing you live streamed.
It was a basketball game at the University of Indianapolis. It was a great idea to try this, and we had a TriCaster, and what we'd been doing was recording the game and then playing it back on a regional sports network that I owned. We had 400,000 homes in Indiana on this network, but everything was tape delayed. And for whatever reason, I discovered the TriCaster could stream. So I got an account with Livestream, and we put it on the air, and it was very successful. They actually promoted it in advance, put a little pressure on me, and had alumni all over the world watch. And that was it. I was hooked.
When was that?
It was probably 2000, 2002, 2003,
Okay.
in that frame.
Wow. That's early times. Eric, do you remember? Eric's old like me. Eric, do you remember the first live stream you did, when that was?
I actually do. It was the SIAC basketball tournament, probably, I think, around 2011, 2010. And we were in Birmingham, Alabama, and we did 25 games in 5 days.
Talk about being worn out. Oh, that's great. And what kind of equipment were you
the
using?
announcer did 25 games. Me and my kids, my family, because it's a family-owned business that we were doing it, we were just completely worn out. 4 or 5 games a day up until the semifinals on Friday.
Oh, yeah. What kind of gear were you using? Were you using hardware switcher or software? What were you using?
Believe it or not, we were using vMix, and that was, it was in the early days of vMix Replay, and we were actually using, can I say Vid Blaster on the air?
Oh, yeah. Just once, though.
Okay, we used that actually for the replay.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Very cool. Vid Blaster guy there. Ken, tell us about your very first live stream, where it was and what you used.
Oh, you guys are going to laugh at this one. I used a Logitech 920 plugged into a laptop and running Adobe Flash Media Encoder.
For sure.
I don't even know if it's available these days or not, but did that, and I streamed a elementary school talent show, and son of a gun, it came through and they liked it, and I had to adjust all the camera settings as it went because the lighting was changing every 5 or 6 minutes. And so I ended up pulling it off. And then from then on, I said, there's got to be something better.
Yep. When was that?
About vMix. That was about 2.5 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. Golly, gee, yeah. They Adobe Flash Media Encoder, Live Encoder 3.2, I think. And they discontinued that about 8 or 9 years ago. Yeah. I've still got copies of it. Patrick, what about your first live stream? Where was it? When was it? And what were you using?
It was junior college here in Carrollton. We were they just had kind of opened up a sports program. They didn't have sports before, and I reached out to them and I said, hey, we're in the day and age now of high-speed internet. What do you think about doing a webcast? And they were open to it. I was using webcasting as a time back then to I got a visitor here. But we were using webcasting at that time to do more audio. I was still doing a lot of audio, a lot of radio broadcasting back then, and I was able to use that to get into the video side, and that's what I did. We did that on a Panasonic. I can't remember the exact model number, but it was a 3-camera show. You had 3 inputs on your Panasonic, and we took that Panasonic output and we brought that into Ustream back then. It was Ustream. I'm not sure if Ustream's even around. I think IBM may own them now. But it was a free player back then, and that was it. It was a pretty simple show. I think my sister ran camera for me a lot. She was nice enough to do that. And we got through a couple years of junior college broadcasting. They ended up having a pretty good baseball program. And then from there, we went more to the software switcher side, which many of us are here today.
Hooray for software switchers. Folks, if you're just joining us, I'm Tom Sinclair. This is Streaming Idiots with the Great Football Live Streaming Roundtable. I've got Rick and Eric and Ken and Patrick with here today. Each one with the unique experiences in live streaming sports. And we've just been talking about some of their history. You know, how they got where they are today, or in Rick's case, you know, he just retired. Is fading away into the woodwork. That's right. But tell me, as you look at the state of live streaming, and specifically live streaming sports today, and in fact, let's try to narrow it down a little bit and say live streaming football, because we've got this great football game over here that Patrick has loaned us to play to fill up the extra box. What do you see as the biggest challenges as we move into this season, maybe even extending out to the next season, but as we're moving into this season? I know for those of you that are doing high school football or associated, as Rick is, with high school athletic associations, you know, there's a big push from various high school athletic associations to sort of take over live streaming. And it's pushing a lot of I might say mom and pops like me out of the stream. So Rick, let me pitch that to you first, and get you to tell me what you think about.
Okay.
You know, the biggest challenges coming up here this year.
Here in Indiana, we're not a part of the National Federation, and primarily because I had always been doing webcasting for the IHSAA, and when the proposal was made to us, the amount of money that we would make, the guaranteed money we would make, was less than 1/10 of what we were making already from sponsors and relationships with Fox. So we never embraced the National Federation, which
now,
I
when
believe
you say
is
National
a major
Federation,
mistake.
sorry, let me interrupt you for just a second.
Okay.
When you say National Federation, tell us what you mean by National Federation.
There is an organization called the National Federation of High Schools who primarily sets rules for high school associations, but who at one time decided that they would become the required portal for all high school sports through a pay-per-view model. Well, they're $47 million in debt right now. $47 million in debt. And they keep going. There are only a few states that are not a part of the Federation. Indiana is one, Minnesota is another, Hawaii, and one part of New York. We will never be. We will never be. We allow all webcasters for a nominal fee to broadcast tournament games. And so, when I held a local seminar here in Indiana and invited webcasters, I had 30 for-profit webcasters came to our seminar. The challenge moving forward, not in Indiana, but for the rest of you guys, is how to make money. How do you sell advertising and put it behind a paywall? You lose 90% of your viewers. And how do you take a nickel and split it 4 ways? 1/4 goes to the association, 1/4 goes to Play On Sports that runs a network, 1/4 goes to the webcaster, 1/4 goes to the school, and the 5th quarter goes to the other school. Nobody's making any money. And I'm not going to tell you how much money we make, but we're happy, very happy. So how do you make money moving forward? I'm waiting for the Federation to die, and so is Jim there in Alabama. He wants him to die in the worst possible way so he can, well, Jim's making some money because he's a smart guy, but I see that as a challenge going forward.
Very good. And we might spin off and talk more about the Federation specifically in the future. But Eric, what kind of challenges do you see as we move into this football season? What do you? I mean, you're working for the school. You're doing your stuff. Are you doing high school football with your side gig?
I also do high school football. I do radio as well for high school football for some games. And one of the biggest challenges going forward is going to be, how can we as webcasters really make money? And Rick kind of chimed in on it a little while ago, but one of the things that I have done and I'm working with are the local cable companies in Southwest Georgia to air their games live or to even shoot them and offer the replay service and all that, where they will air it the next day.
And so this is going to be
like I said, the biggest thing is going to be, with the rights. The Georgia Athletic Association, the GHSA, has complete control over most of the athletic sporting events. So you have to pay them a fee to stream it or even broadcast it. And going forward, like I said, it's going to be trying to find that niche market and get people on, to watch your webcast and be able to get your advertisers and your sponsors in.
Right. Gotcha. Interesting. So, okay, so how many, are you working with one high school or are you working with a multitude of high schools this fall?
I'm actually working with several high schools this fall. We're working to finalize some things. We've got a really great game coming up to start off the season. It's going to be the defending state champion Lee County Trojans taking on the Doherty High School Trojans here in Albany, and that's always a great opportunity, to showcase not only, the talent of some of my student workers, but to also showcase some of the mass comm students. I work with the high schools as well and bring them in and let them work a lot of the equipment and get their hands on and get their hands dirty.
Awesome. Oh, yeah. Boy, that's so nice to have a pool of talent to be able to draw from like that. That's one of the biggest challenges we used to face. Ken, what do you think about the challenges that you're going to face, or you think that live streamers in general are going to face this coming football season?
Well, I don't have the financial worries that a lot of you guys do. I'm a one-man band, I'm retired, so I do this a lot of times just for fun. But they're trying to make some money by selling some advertising space so that the local high school that I deal with can go out and buy a few more pieces of hardware and do what they want to do. But the challenge that I have coming up is that I'm going to be trying to do the player overlays. You see these in large football games where if some player makes a big play, then they put a little bit of short video of him on the screen with his name or his stats or something like that. And I plan on doing that this coming season. So we're going to see if my graphics card's big enough. But I got a big old keyboard here that's just about one person per jersey plus some instant replay stuff. So that's probably going to be my big thing this year.
So your challenge is more of the technology challenge. I like that. That's much easier to control when it's you and what you're capable of doing. I got it. Patrick, what do you see coming down the pike for you or for people like you this fall?
Well, the challenge for me is always just to try to go out and explain value in webcasting. For many years, it was kind of dominated, especially here in the Southeast. Football on the radio was very dominant. But what we've seen recently is that radio has become a dying market, and less and less stations are carrying games live. I worked, like Eric, I worked in radio for many years, and when the only thing that would air live the whole time was high school football, you can just kind of see the radio trend going down. Well, where radio has gone down, webcasting has gone up. And you've even seen a crossover between the two. You've seen a lot of radio stations are now doing video work, and they'll put their stuff out there on the video side as well. So it's trying to find value, trying to go out and explain, hey, video killed the radio star, and we want to make ourselves different than just the guy that's going out there with one camera, a broadcaster, and a score bug. We want to be multi-camera, replays, a bunch of sponsored elements, that kind of stuff, because at the end of the day, you have a lot of people who can go out and shoot a single camera and throw up a quick little score bug, but it's making sponsors understand the value of what we do, and versus just the stuff you're going to get there or the stuff you're going to get on the pay-per-view model with the federation. That's we talked a little bit about this in pre-show, but it's making us stand out more compared to some of those things.
Interesting. So yeah, and you guys were kind of an interesting choice of folks to bring in about this, because you're really not all doing the same thing. Eric's got a university that he's working with, and his own company that kind of, is probably working a lot of hand in glove. I mean, you're taking a lot of students from the university to bring them into your company to do your productions. Patrick's out there, he's just spent $100,000 on this new truck. He's got to get this truck rolling, and we're gonna show off that truck in just a second. But he's doing this as a serious main gig. Ken has got no financial cares in the world. He buys equipment for me all the time, stuff he doesn't even need. He's just buying it because he's trying to keep me alive. And Rick has been through it all. He's been through all the wars. He's out on the other side, but he has probably, of all the people I know in webcasting, in internet broadcasting, whatever we're going to call it. We still haven't come up with a single term to call it, by the way. Live streaming is the latest, greatest. He seems to have the greatest understanding of the whole picture of how it works, from the little guys to the big guys, how it interfaces with ESPN, the National High School Federation. And so let me pitch this over to Rick for just a second, and I'm going to ask him to pull out his crystal ball and tell us what he thinks is going to happen. Well, for example, the state of Alabama is a National Federation state, and the Alabama High School Athletic Association has put tremendous pressure on the individual schools, and in some cases counties, because our county, Baldwin County, has the Baldwin County Board of Education, and one of the employees is charged with athletics in the county, and so everything kind of channels through him. And so the county has said every school is going to be doing live streaming through the National Federation now. And so everybody's either getting this Pixelot camera that does this, automatic switching, which is horrible, and certainly not as good as what they're doing, or like our local high school, Fairhope High School, has been doing their own production for years. I mean, we were doing soccer for them way before football ever took off, but when the football got ready, they came to me and said, how can we do this for football, which you're doing for soccer? And they've been doing a great production, multi-camera, instant replay, sponsors, a coach's show on Thursday night. They built it all up, and now they just got their knees knocked out from underneath them by the county that says, oh, by the way, you can do all that if you want to, but and you can sell to sponsors too if you want to, but it's all going to be behind the paywall, and it's going to be through not your website, but all this other stuff. And so they're just scrambling, trying to figure out how to save this thing that they've created. I mean, it's all volunteer on their part. But and the Booster Club has kind of been in the one to fund it and to raise the money with it and try to help get money from it. But it's been a real struggle. So Rick, I want to ask you to pull out your crystal ball and tell us where you think this is going to go next. Is the debt from the National Federation going to collapse?
The Federation has to fail. You don't borrow $47 million and generate $2.5 million in subscriber fees and generate an entity that can survive. Here's the problem. The National Federation is missing the point. The point isn't charging viewers to watch. It's the creation and maintenance of a fan base.
Right.
Because most associations make their money on ticket sales during the tournament. So the goal of the association should be to reach out and engage with the fans. Now here's some statistics. 57% of guys like you and me, Tom, watch live television. 2% of pre-millennials watch live TV. And only 13% watch live TV. So the fan base isn't on television. It's not on radio. They're holding this thing in their hand. And this is how we have to engage. This is the goal and objective of creating revenue through ticket sales. Our association understands that. That's why we're not a part of the federation. Ancillary to that, I guarantee you we make more money than any other state association. So the crystal ball is this. Until the associations recognize that webcasting is a 3-hour infomercial for them and their school and their student athletes, and that's what keeps the engagement rolling, you're all going to be stuck behind a paywall. So you have to hope that the federation dies, period.
How soon is that going to happen?
I'm not Kreskin. I can't bend a spoon with my hands.
Oh,
but
come on.
I've had a lot
Give
of
me
businesses.
A guess. Give me a guess.
Pretty soon those guys that loaned them $47 million are going to want a return on that investment. How long will they wait? Don't know. Sound like a good idea. Now, here's another stat. When you put live football behind a paywall, you lose 90% of your viewers.
Sure.
As a stat you can trace. Now, so guys are saying, well, how do I get out from underneath the paywall with the National Federation? Right now, I'm telling you, do colleges. Do auctions at livestock venues. Because if you can't make money doing it at the high school, you gotta find something else. Like Eric's doing college, Patrick is diversifying, if wrestling is where it's at, if extreme sports is where it's at, you gotta go there. You gotta go where the money is. And unfortunately, high school sports may not be it.
At least not today,
Hey, you
but
know what?
maybe in 3
I
years.
sound like the federation fails. The problem is the federation is killing the small webcaster. So when they fail, there's not going to be many people that have lived through that who concentrate on high school sports. I mean, Tom, how many webcasters do you think cover high school sports that are professionals like us in Alabama? How many do you have in Alabama? For-profit webcasters.
I can think
Indiana?
I can think of 6 or 7, but you know, I'm down here
Okay.
in the very bottom of the state, so I'm not well
Right.
connected.
We have 75.
Yeah,
75.
yeah.
They can make it. They're not encumbered.
Right. Right.
So
Got
when
it.
your federation dies, those 5 or 6 guys, I mean, they're still in business, but I mean, are other people going to step in and take advantage of the opportunity?
Well, I think the answer to that is yes. You know, people will, but I've been through this. I was in the real estate industry in 2008, and when that crash went. And fortunately, I had been in it long enough that I had deep enough roots that I could just sort of wobble on through, whereas all my competition fell off the table. They were gone. That was the best thing that ever happened to me. And because
Well,
I had deep
along
roots
that
and
line,
could
the
get
best-
through it,
The best thing that people can do today, not in the future, is do something different. I see too many people, now guys don't shoot me on this because I kind of have a different attitude than I did back in my web stream days, but I see too many people that take $250,000 to a high school football game and stream it. 4 or 5 cameras, maybe a sideline reporter, a parabolic dish, microphones everywhere. They got ducks walking across the screen quacking with their CG and blah, blah, blah. I suggest create 4 entities and go do 4 games with a single camera. And that's what we do. And I tell people, do 4 games. Same amount of people, same amount of equipment, 4 times the exposure, 4 times the potential advertisers. And if you do it right, you implement the 90-10 rule. You can do 90% of the big truck at 10% of the cost. I mean, we did a single camera shoot from an oblique angle from the corner of a high school tournament game. Had 158,000 viewers. 1 camera. 2 good announcers. Nobody ever said, what a terrible camera angle. So, you know, I think the thought needs to be, it isn't all about, now you sell equipment, don't shoot me. It's not always the equipment. And I tell people, it's not the size of the paintbrush, it's the artist holding it. So get creative and do things different. And maybe that'll open up your revenue opportunities. And by the way, guys, I talk funny because I had cancer in my vocal cords 6 years ago. So I'm sorry for the audio. I'm kind
We're just glad you're talking, man.
When I talk.
You know,
Yeah,
we
me too.
yeah.
My wife's not.
Oh well.
Anyway, that's my 10 cents, Tom.
I like it. All right, so Eric, based on that, you know, what does that make you think? I mean, does that sort of point in the direction that you think you're going, maybe diversifying, or are you pretty satisfied with the path that you're on right now?
And Rick is kind of right on that. And what I tried to do is not necessarily webcasting, but actually go to the local cable markets and the local cable net TV stations and say, like your MediaComs, your Comcast.
Right.
And most communities have an educational channel or a local access channel and say, hey, you want to carry the high school game? And that's kind of a way I've done it to supplement some high school games.
Right. Gotcha. So Ken, are you, you know, has anything that Rick said made you consider doing anything differently this coming fall? I mean, you're pretty well fixed on the path that you're on.
I am. I can walk into these games with less than $3,000 worth of equipment. 1 trip up to the press booth, I get myself set up, and I'm shooting basically 1.5 cameras. You know, if you include the wide cam, the webcam thing, and I'm shooting with a real nice camera that I've got, and a scorebug camera, and that's pretty much it. I try to keep my shots wide enough to where you can follow the play. I don't want to see zits on the players, but I want to be able to see, you know, who's blocking him, who's catching up to him, the different strategies and stuff like that. And as football's not the only thing that I do. I also do town hall meetings, and I get paid for that. I do performance stuff for the local arts groups, and I get paid very nicely for that. And so football is just kind of a fun to do thing that we can make money by selling advertising, but I don't know, I'm covering it real well with a single man band here.
I like it. Slim and trim and able to pivot very quickly. You know, Patrick, on the other hand, he's got all these tires he's got to pay for. You know, Patrick, kind of reply to what Rick said. I mean, you're kind of pushing that other direction. You've got an OB truck. That immediately means a multi-camera shoot with a director and all sorts of personnel. And so you're the $250,000 guy. What do you think? Is Rick just blowing smoke, or is he making you afraid, or are you just confident the direction you're going is going to work?
No, we've seen Rick, over the years. He's been on both ends of it. He's been on the truck side, and now he's on kind of the one-man band side as well. And he's right. It's all about making a profit. You can't lose money. Those people that know me best, I get picked on a lot because I'm the guy that really I keep a real tight budget. I look for deals all the time. I'll give you a perfect example. We've got a telestrator, right? just a few years ago, if you had a telestrator, what were you going to pay? $500, $1,000, $1,500. Those things were worth a lot of money back then. But I seen a post one day from Tom Sinclair that said, "Hey, we've got this telestrator product on sale for $100." I purchased it. I go to eBay. I'm on eBay all the time. Plucking cameras that are here, that are there. I try my best to be very budget conscious, and even when it comes to crewing, we go into local high schools. I've got a partnership with the 3 local high schools in my area and a couple others a county away, and we train their students. Our broadcast is not completely student ran, but it's probably 2 students to 1 adult, and we go in there, and where we have now, our issue with the Federation, they will let us stream regular season games, but we have to pay if we stream a playoff game.
Right.
That's an absolute. But I partner with the high schools and with the mass media teachers. And what we see is that so many of these schools have equipment, have really nice equipment, but it's stuck in inside the school, and it can't get out, it can't travel, it can't do this. So this gives us an opportunity to bring those students in, to partner with them, to teach them, and they can take this and go now directly into a university when they graduate. And look, all these schools now are doing ESPN Plus. I work for 4 colleges. They all 4 do ESPN Plus. Those kids have already been on a multi-cam production. They're ready. You're essentially ready to go. They're not just stuck in a classroom doing those new style things that you see a lot. So I try to be conscious, and even my stuff, like I have a TriCaster Mini, and when I haul it off, I put in a little Pelican case. If I don't need the big truck, if I'm only doing a 2-camera broadcast, I break out that Mini, or my vMix machine right here, or my production truck broadcast by Blue Frame, and I go. I only take the truck out, and granted I've only had it for a couple weeks now, but I'm only taking that truck out if we're doing 4 or 5 cameras, which we're doing for football this year. But if I go out and shoot a 2-camera soccer shoot, all that stuff's going in the trunk of my car. We're going to be heavily student produced, and it's not going to cost that much money. So I go both ways with it, and you're right. You see a lot of people that go for it all, and they end up broke in a couple years because they've purchased all this equipment at these very high rates. I try not to buy too many things at full rate. About a lot of things used, and I'm not afraid to be a generation back as far as cell phones, equipment, that kind of stuff as well. So I don't always have to have the latest and the greatest.
I got it. In fact, thanks for mentioning the Panimation software, the Telestrator. I've actually got the guy that wrote the code for that on the show next week. So if anybody's interested in knowing more about the Telestration software, tune in next week, because we'll have Mike Benke on to talk about that. He wrote Panimation and the Telestrator portion of that, so it's pretty good stuff. It's neat, but it's an enhancement to a broadcast. It's not. There you go. Exactly. Patrick's got it. It's not essential to a broadcast, but it's a nice. Is it a toy? Does it make things better? Yeah, it probably does, but it's not essential to a broadcast. Okay, we've gone way over time, and we've just skinned the surface of what there is. But let's do this. Let's go around one more time, and I want to ask you what your favorite piece of gear is. And Patrick, that's going to be your cue to bring in your OB van. And if anybody's got some pictures they want to share, or you can just use words to build a picture. So we're gonna kick it off to Rick first, and Rick, this can go way back to the dark ages. When you just started out. What was your favorite piece of gear?
Oh gosh. Well, that's a tough question. I loved my Sprinter van, and Patrick knows that I had that at one time. Everything was duplicated. It was built for failure. I drove all over the United States in that thing. My first game on ESPN was out of that Sprinter. And this is a great story. I'll be quick. So we're doing a Missouri Valley Conference tournament, and I think I'm in Nebraska, and I get a call from ESPN that says, "We want your games." Now, okay, I've never been on ESPN, the mothership, before, so I call into Master Control. They send out an ENG truck. We're ready to rock and roll. The guy says, let me see camera 1. So I said, camera 1, give me a shot. Take 1. Give me 2. Take 2. Give me 3. Take 3. Give me 4. Take 4. Give me 5. I don't have a 5. 1, give me a different shot. Take 5. Let me see 6. 2, give me a different shot. Take 2. Take 6. And we did 14 games. They took 2 live, and we had like 5 or 6 best of the best, and they had no idea that I was using a TriCaster. In fact, at that time, they didn't want or allow TriCasters. Now the good news is I got $5,000 upcharge times 14 to give it to them. So we bought steak on the way home. It was a lot of fun. So I'd say my Sprinter van was my favorite.
All right. Love that story. Eric, what's your favorite?
And I've got to give it to Martin. It's got to be vMix, because that really changed the game for for me and for all of us here, because it offered us a cost-effective way to stream the games, to be a switcher, to be replay, wherein it's only like really. If I got a TriCaster and a 3-play machine, it's going to cost me $50,000, wherein I can get a good computer in vMix and I can run it for about $4,000 or $5,000, and I can do everything that a TriCaster and a 3-play machine could do.
Well, I'm not gonna argue with that. I'm agreeing with that. By the way, folks, if you don't already know it, I'm a vMix reseller. That's why I'm really agreeing with Eric very strongly here. And Eric is, you have done a lot. I mean, you've got like 23 different XKE models, I think. But between vMix and XKeys, you've really kind of perfected that art. I mean, I saw the show that you did with the XKeys guys 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was just amazing.
Yeah, we did. You name it, we've done it. From I've broke it out into several stations, from a replay station for tape to my technical director with a switcher. I've got a graphic one that handles graphics, and last for audio, and I'm getting ready to add one more for director, and for talk back to the air talent.
Awesome. Well, Ken, which part of your gear, what part of your kit do you like the most? What's your favorite?
Well, besides the vMix stuff, which is goes without saying, this is my typical setup over here. I have 2 favorites, and they're some really small pieces of equipment. One of them is an audio ducker, and this thing works out really good. I have a feed coming from the announcer, and he comes into this audio ducker, and I combine it with the ambient, so the ambient is automatically lowered whenever the announcer talks, and when they don't talk, then I pick up the crowd sound, and I like that quite a bit. I also have a box of buttons that I can do all the little replays with, and switch cameras and stuff like that, and that works out pretty good. And of course this year is going to be the bigger XKeys over here. So that's basically the setup that I've got. I also happen to use a USB to audio, and I have a separate little tripod thingy for all the cameras. So that's kind of my stuff in a nutshell. So I have several favorites to go from. That's it.
That's awesome. That's awesome, folks. There, Ken went through it in about 20 seconds, but there is like months and months of trial and error and testing and finagling that went into that setup, and I commend Ken on that. Yeah, well done. Patrick, tell us what. Oh, well, come on, just.
Obviously, I just picked up the van, but before we go to that, there's a quick list of what I've got on the production list of what's inside the truck here. So we've got a TriCaster 4 switcher, vMix. We've got a dedicated vMix machine, which I'm on right now for vMix replay. Our graphics system is Blue Frame. We've got Scorebug, but also I use vMix as well for another graphics channel. So I have a Scorebug channel and a graphics channel. I've got Canon XA20 cameras. So we've got obviously the telestrator that I showed you. So we got a lot of things to play with here, a lot of toys. And then my games go to Roku. Blueframe is my CDN, and they also restream out to YouTube and Facebook. So that's a look at what's inside the truck. And then the truck itself, let me take this layer off here. And this is a look at the truck itself. I'll kind of go through here and pause in a couple spots. So this right here is my graphics station, and this is Blueframe. This is a program, and then the actual machine is right there. I'll just, so we can go through this quick, I'll just kind of jump through this video. And here's a look at my main switcher row. This right here is my TriCaster, the ISO look. I've got this XKEs controller. I have 2 XKEs controllers myself. Going back to being the frugal person I am, I'm not going to pay $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for a control service from NewTek. I'm going to spend a couple $100, program it the way I want to program it, and just do the XKeys route. So that goes not only for that, but also for my replay here that we see as well. So looking at this pick, this is my replay machine. I don't have it in replay mode right here, but it is it. This is my external graphics for vMix, and this is my controller here that controls it. So that pretty much provides everything I need. Let's see if I just scroll through here, show you a little bit on the audio side. I'm very heavy into NDI, as you can see there. Plenty of NDI sources. I've got PTZ Optics camera, a bird dog if I need it, and give you a little wide shot here. There's a look inside. I see my son's toy there. There's my vMix machine. It's a Ruby build right there. We can seat 6 in the truck, so we can actually travel a crew. It's built out of an old ambulance, so we can take between that and maybe a car with a broadcaster too. We could probably take 10 people between the truck and another vehicle, so we can really travel. Here's a little bit wider look at it, and just outside of the frame here, there we go. Up in the corner here, we have some of the audio. So audio mixer here, and this is my talkback here. I'll have a microphone that goes about right here, and I'll just use this to talk back to our broadcaster. So full talkback functionality that goes back. I pretty much just drop on site now, and then I got about 10 or so cables that I just drop down from the press box, and then I'm ready to go. So it does give me the benefit of having everything, and Rick knows this. It's nice when you don't have to necessarily worry about bringing in a mixer or two and plugging it up and get everything talking. It's kind of there. You drop down some cords and you go. But it's new for me because for the last few years I've had to take my machines in separately, and when there's no elevator in a high school or a small college, it's a lot of work.
Awesome. I love it. If you happen to see that missing out of your driveway one night, don't come look in my driveway. It won't be there. No, guaranteed. All right, guys. Well, again, we've only really skimmed the surface, but I do appreciate you taking so much time. We're going to close out the official part of the broadcast and move into the post show. If you can hang around, that's great. If you're watching us now and you would like to ask some questions, by all means, we're following the chat in YouTube. So if you're in YouTube, I'll keep chatting there. If you're in Facebook, come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com and click the Watch Live tab, and that'll take you to the video of the broadcast, and then underneath it, the chat room where you can ask questions. So Rick, Eric, Ken, Patrick, thank you so much for being on board. And we'll be back in just a second with the post show if all the buttons work right. Thanks. We're out. And we're back. All right, gentlemen, good work. Thank you so much. That was just awesome. I mean, frankly, I felt like we could have gone for 4 hours. And again, at the end of 4 hours, I would have said, I think we're just scratching the surface of all this. But we got into some good stuff. We talked about some gear. We talked about some politics. We talked about some money aspects of it. wasn't really intended to dive deeply into all of that, but just kind of be a round table where we could chat about live streaming football in particular. Rich wants to know, is that Thunder? And yes, that's Thunder here in Alabama. We have Thunder every afternoon. It's scheduled for 2:30, so it's a little bit late today. Cujo Entertainment is asking, Patrick, do you have the video or photos of your truck van shared anywhere? Cujo wants to go see close-ups of all that.
Yeah, I could share that to a Google Drive and post it. I'll post it on the Streaming Idiots forum on a Google Drive. That's just open to share.
All right, so that would be facebook.com/groups/Streaming Idiots. If you're not already a member, you can join, but you have to give us your email address. That's how we hold you accountable. We don't like trolls. We don't like people who won't be held accountable. Let's see what else here. Somebody had a question and it's just scrolled by. So if you would post your question again, I think it was a question for Ken about his setup. So all right, let's see. Let's see who has the most number of X keys. So if you've got one, raise your hand. At least one. Eric, raise your hand. Come on, right there we go. At least two. At least three. At least four. At least five. At least six. At least seven. Ooh, go back to six. Eric has got six. Oh, Ken's got six. Eric and Ken both have 6 X keys. Oh my goodness. Well, I've got you both beat because I've got a carton of these, so that doesn't count. All right, let's see. Rick, I know. Somebody wrote either in the Webcasters group or in the Streaming Idiots group or somewhere else that ESPN was considering approving vMix for use. Have you heard anything about that?
Well, I do know that they've approved TriCaster, and primarily this occurred maybe 3 or 4 years ago. There were two factions within ESPN. There was the old guard that believed that only a good production could come from a ROS-type switch.
Right.
But when we started quoting TriCasters around 2013 at half the price, the new guard said the viewer doesn't know the difference.
Right.
I would not be surprised if they approved it because the quality and the performance is on par with the TriCaster, but
Right.
I personally have not heard that.
Gotcha. Patrick, you nodded your head. Is that something you've heard?
Yeah, so at all 4 of the colleges I work for, we do have a TriCaster set up in one of the control rooms, whether it's primary or secondary. A big thing that has came about that is NDI, because a company called AJT who does graphics, they're now the 3rd graphics provider for ESPN. So there's VizRT, which you see in the trucks. Ross has their own graphics package that's tied in, mainly directly with the Ross Carbonites. Also, they have worked with some TriCasters in the past as well. But a lot of the packages that are sold now to universities are new tech packages. So a 3-play, an AJT, and a TriCaster together. And the TC1 is a pretty common thing. It's 16 channels. I mean, you can fill that up pretty quick with 2 channels of graphics, 2 channels of replay, this, that, and another. But yeah, all 4 colleges I work for own at least one TriCaster that we send ESPN programming out. Gotcha.
RJ is asking Patrick, where you're based. You're in Carrollton, Georgia, right?
Yep, I'm on the Georgia-Alabama line. About 45 minutes on the Georgia side from Jim Jacobs, who's out in the Talladega area.
Okay, so that's going to be northwest Georgia.
Hours away from Eric. Yeah, West Georgia.
And Eric's down in Albany. Got it. All right. Bradley is asking, what are startup costs for a production van set up with 4 or 5 cameras? Well, they can be whatever you want them to be.
It depends. Are you going out and getting the most high? I mean, are you getting $5,000 cameras? Or are you starting off with $500 cameras? Or are you planning on shooting 4K, 720? It's across the board. I've got these cameras right here. Really good cameras. These are XA20s. There's now the XA15 models that are a little bit newer, but it's basically the same exact camera, just a little bit newer. We're very familiar with them. For me, they're the best, lower dollar camera out there to stream with. The 15s and the 20s and the 25s. They're very popular amongst streamers, but you could pick these up used for well under $1,000. I think I paid $500 or less for each one of my 3 cameras.
There you go. There you go. Good advice. So if you're shopping for something and you're on the cheap, talk to Patrick. If you have a lot of money to spend, talk to me. Yeah.
Here's another example. You can go out and buy a Marshall camera for $750 or $100. Or if you're just shooting a simple booth shot, just get one of these little guys. I call it my faux Marshall, but it's just a little POV cam. It doesn't have the Marshall name attached to it. It's like a $125 camera, but it will get the job done. When you were scrolling some of the booth shots that you've seen earlier on the video I provided, those were with this little camera right here. This year we're going to set this up because it has a lens that you could, you can turn. And Ada is another camera that's similar to this. That's not quite as expensive as Marshall, but I could set it to exactly the yardage I want in the field. I'm going to do an all 22 look. I'm going to throw it in vMix as one of my 4 inputs, and we're going to use it on a telestrator this year. But just an example of you don't have to go out and pay $1,000 for every camera you got. I got my PTZ camera, my PTZ optics camera, open box, so it was less than $1,000. So I'm always on the lookout for deals. B&H, every morning they go out, and Gerald posts some stuff all the time. Thankfully for him, we see some good deals that come through on tripods, on computers, on all kind of stuff. Every morning I wake up and I check B&H. I check the Lightning deals on Amazon, a couple other places I subscribe to. And I make sure, I don't like to dig into the credit card, that's there just in case there's a deal I can't pass up. Here recently I got this wireless. Tom, you know this, but I didn't plan on having a wireless this year. I planned on using my Ubiquity again. That's what I've done in the past, but I picked this up for like $700. Went out and tested it. It's good for like 600 feet. Pretty little bit of delay. So these are getting cheaper and cheaper. This is a CVW, it looks like, but Crystal View, I think they call it. So you really got to look all over the market and find the best deal.
All right. 12 and under wants to know, Patrick, or anybody, is anybody using GoPros in your production? Nope. No GoPros.
I used to. We use them at some of the colleges for backboard cams. Compared to a Marshall, I don't think they put out the same picture clarity. But I do have 2 packed away in case I need them. They're actually GoPro Hero 2s. I feel like the older ones are better than the newer ones for live production, but I personally don't use them unless I have to.
Gotcha. All right. And Josh mentioned that Harvard is using another software switcher that will go unnamed to stream to ESPN3. So they can't imagine why vMix wouldn't be included. There you go. It's a whole new
I think
world.
Harvard's on a TriCaster. I'm pretty sure. That's Emory over there at Harvard. They're on a AJT and TriCaster setup.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe this person is misinformed. There you go. So that looks like the questions there, guys. Any closing comments from any of you guys? Then we're going to let you go. So I got to write each one of you a check and get it in the mail. Rick, closing comments.
The one thing I'd like to share with you guys, we talked a little bit about 4 different sites. Jim Wofford here at Hamilton County TV is taking those individual single camera shoots and he's getting creative. He's bringing those into a game day, a quad, hosted. Now, part 2 of that, take that to BW3s and have them pay to have you host that. So the creativity, I really enjoy dealing with old Jim Wofford here. He's older than you and I, Tom, by a month. He comes up with all these great ideas, and I adopt them as my own. And I'll post. I'll tell you what, I've got a video that he put together to show me what he's been working on, and I'll post that on Webcasters and also put it on Streaming Idiots, so you guys can see the idea that's out of the box, a different way to sell advertising and to gain sponsorship.
There you go.
So my last thought is always be thinking of something different. Find the niche in broadcasting and then find a way to revenue around that. Hey, thanks for having me. I've got to run, so I'm going to disappear. Thanks, guys. Patrick, nice meeting you. Eric, Ken, see y'all.
Thanks, Rick. All right, Rick is an amazing guy. Well, I'm sorry, he's still around. We'll talk about him after he leaves some more. Eric, closing comments.
Muted.
There we go. Oh, nope. So Eric is doing a mime for us today. That's his closing comment. No, he's still miming. Work on that. We'll come back to you. Ken, closing comments.
Yeah, there was a question in the chat over here that I forgot to answer a little earlier, and it was having
Good.
to deal with copyrighted music during some of these games and such like that. I do have a button on one of my gizmos over here, just basically says mute. It's also a shortcut to bring up some titles, some CG on the screen. It says the sound has been muted because of copyright issues. I do bring that up on the entrance music that people come into, the teams who come onto the field, and also at halftime for the cheerleaders. So I'm frugal with that, and lately it's been kind of irritating, but the folks that are supporting the fans, I guess I should say, sometimes bring their own boom box and they play stuff in between, and I'm
Right.
trying to get them corrected. I said, you really can't do that. There's some actual rules that say you can't have music playing while they're in a huddle or while they're doing a play or something like that. And it cleans up my audio feed quite a bit. So I do that, and so far I've gotten no complaints on muting the audio, and I'm happy about that.
Awesome. Eric, let's come back to you. Closing thoughts.
It's always fun, and we kind of make a little bit of money doing this, and it's kind of a labor of love. And my biggest thing is I enjoy imparting some knowledge on some of the students and sharing some of my experiences, because I've done national TV, I've done national radio, so it's always great to see them when the light bulb comes on.
That's awesome. I agree. Working with the sixth graders I worked with last spring, and to watch the light bulb come on for them, at such an early age, and some of them you could tell immediately. They said, I like this. I want to do more of it. That's a lot of fun. Patrick, your last chance. Tell us what you're thinking. Closing thoughts.
I'm pretty similar to Eric. I mean, we just be diverse. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Or, for me, the Southland Sports TV is just one of the things I do. I'm freelancer in production for full time. So, luckily I get to do this for a living. It's something fun to do, and I get to put my own staple with my own productions on. Stuff that, we mentioned ESPN and stuff, and, they've got certain rules and certain things you have to do, and you have to abide by like anything else. But, it's fun to kind of step out of the box sometimes and have your own production that you're able to do what you want. And we didn't talk about it much today, but that is a good question that they posted with Ken and the copyright thing. My advice on that real quick is get a real CDN. I mean, YouTube and Facebook are great, and I'm going to use Blueframe to restream to those platforms. At the end of the day, if they get muted, they get muted. If they get taken down, they get taken down. But our games will still be going to the Roku, still be going to the websites, and all that through our paid CDN. So if you're worried about background music and that kind of stuff, pay a little bit of money and just get a real CDN, because especially if you have sponsors, you got to take care of them. You got to do stuff. You got to have some redundancy. So that's my advice: is if you're looking to make money and have sponsors, be responsible with it. Have a little bit of redundancy. Don't spend a ton of money, and go out and get a real CDN. I use Blueframe because it's cheap, and they're able to restream for me to those other sites. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to get shut down because, I mean, you even hear people getting shut down for the national anthem these days, but you know that they play turn down for what on a first down or something, and all of a sudden you're muted. So it's something important to think about if you're going to be web streaming sports is trying to pick up a CDN that's going to do it for you.
Yeah, I think we may have to have an expert come in and talk about that, some ways to work around it. That's really good, really good. There are a bunch more questions here in the chat. We do need to close this off because we went way over time, and I appreciate you guys spending so much time with me today. I really do. Eric and Ken and Patrick and of course Rick. RJ, thank you for the update on the power boats running in the Destin, Florida area this weekend, where I'm going to be on Saturday. So I'll keep an eye out for that. And for all of you that are watching, still hanging in there, still hanging in there. Thanks for watching Streaming Idiots this week. If I can help you with any gear questions, we are representing, and so delighted to be representing, XKeys and the new XKE-64 Jog Shuttle T-Bar controller. We have those in stock. We're one of very few folks that have those in stock. So if you would like one, they are in our store at easternshorebroadcasting.com. Brandon's got the other version that doesn't have the T-bar on it, which is a real value, and we have those in our store too. And Ken is showing off the XKeys XK128, I believe, that just is just full of keys. And then that same version that's right here also comes with a T-bar. So if you're interested in XKeys, we can hook you up. If you're interested in vMix, we can hook you up for sure. Gentlemen, I appreciate you. If you guys will hang on just a second, we're gonna cut to the private part. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you, and we will see you next week when we have Mike Benke with Panimation Software, who does the telestration, and we'll see you then. Thanks so much. We'll let the stream run out so it doesn't cut you off.